Good afternoon. This is Professor Luis Blandon. Today, today's lesson is going to be about the auxiliary verb do. It's more or less an introduction since this is a beginning class to that verb. The final learning objectives or terminal objective for this lesson would be the ability to conjugate the auxiliary verb do. Also, by the end of the lesson, you should be familiar with the way you should ask questions in other negative sentence using the auxiliary verb do. The enabling objectives or the steps or activities we need to conduct in order to get to our terminal objective would be practicing conjugating do and participating in a drill using do as an auxiliary verb. We first have to start with a warm-up, and I decided to do this type of warm-up because this is the past tense expression is what we're going to be using to better understand do and writing sentences in the past. So go ahead and let's start practicing or thinking about past tense expression with yesterday, such as yesterday morning, yesterday afternoon, with last week, last night. So do 4 or 5 of those expressions and check with your partner, with a student next to you, to see or to highlight the ones you missed or you don't have that the other student may have. There are many variables to this, and I want you to practice many of them, such as yesterday morning, last Tuesday, last night. So practice, just think of ways to use yesterday, last night, and ago. And after doing 4 or 5 of each, check with the partner to see if you're different than his or hers. Okay, this shouldn't take you more than 2 minutes. While you're doing that, I'm gonna have up on the board some of the facts about do. When we use do, the meaning of do, the base form, etc. Again, think of some expressions and that may be used in some sentences using yesterday, last, or ago. Once you're done with that, check your partner's listing to see if some of them are different than yours and highlight those or write them down on your notes so you have a complete list of them. Let's go over. We'll go over the warm-up activity later today because we're gonna use it with some other activities. So let's talk a bit more about do. Do is an irregular verb, meaning its form will change according to the subject, or if it's in the past, it would change. So it is an irregular verb. Its base form, however, is do. That is its base form or the original form. Okay, so do has two meanings. We're on three now. Do has two meanings. It is an action verb, which means to take action, perform an activity or a task. For example, if someone was to tell you, do your homework, they're using do as an action verb. They want you to perform an activity, and that is your homework. However, do is also an auxiliary verb, or some people call it a helping verb, meaning it is used with other verbs to create negative statements and questions in the past and in the present. So do is used with other main verbs. So do doesn't really have a meaning here as a helping verb. It is used to help other verbs create negative statements and questions using main verbs. Now, we do not use do with to be, with modal verbs, or with other auxiliary verbs such as will. So again, we do not use do as an auxiliary verb with to be, modal verbs, or with any other auxiliary verb. Any questions about do? When to use it or how to use it? Before we go into some of the activities, I want to since I'm introducing do to you, we need to conjugate the verb do in the present and in the past. The plus sign that you're seeing on the screen would mean affirmative statements or questions. The negative would be the minus sign would be the negative. Okay, so we're going to conjugate do in the present, and then we'll do it in the past. Again, we'll do the subject. I have regular subjects up above and plurals down below. And for I, we use do. We say do. The negative form would be do not. We just add the not next to the do when it's in the negative. Most people will contract that or shorten it and would say don't. Now we're moving to you. We're going to be using these red arrows to tell you where we are, okay? We're with you right now. The subject, you. In the present, do. In the present, negative, do not. Again, it's the same as I, which is adding the not. Do not. The third person. This is going to change because now we're going to say does for the present affirmative. Present negative would be does not. We're simply adding not to does. And most people contracted and would say doesn't. Let's move on to the plurals. We do. Present affirmative. Do not. Present negative. We're just adding not right next to do. That's all it is. Most people would say don't. Same here. Same form. We use do for they, do not, and the negative present. You, as in many of us, we use do and we use do not. Present negative. All right, let's switch now to the past. We use did. For I, did. Past negative, did not. Okay. So with the past, did is going to be the same all the way across, all the way down to every subject, meaning did will be used all the way down for every subject. This would include singular nouns and plural nouns. And we just add not, as you can see, to the past negative, okay? So let's now get into how to use do as an auxiliary verb. Again, auxiliary means helping. It's helping the other verbs create negative statements. In this case, we're going to start with negative statements in the present and the past. Take a look at this. I do not want to go. I do not, right? I'm creating a negative statement. And so I'm using do because want needs and helping it needs an auxiliary verb to create the negative. Again, that main verb has to be in the base form. Okay, let's take a look at the one down below. She doesn't go alone. Does not. We use does for she or for the third person or any singular, and it is contracted. Okay, again, we'll see go in the base form. It has to be in the base form. Let's now practice past sentences using the auxiliary verb do. Again, we use do to create the negative. Okay, I did not want to go yesterday. Now, do you remember those past time expressions? We're going to start using them here when we work with past tenses. I did not want to go yesterday. It could be yesterday morning. It could be yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening. But usually we use those with auxiliary verbs. I didn't go last night. It could be last Wednesday. It could be last time. We usually use last and then a day or a time to express something we didn't want to do in the past. And again, with when we're working with past sentences, we're using did not all the way across with every single subject. Okay. If I was to come up with a formula, I'm all the way down now. If I was to come up with a formula to create negative statements in the present or the past using the auxiliary verb do, I would go subject first, then do, then the main verb to create a negative. Okay, this now it is also used to ask questions, affirmative questions, negative questions. Let's do affirmative questions first. Do you want to go? Again, that main verb has to be in the base form, okay? We use do because you, the subject, we use you, do for you. Okay? Don't you want to go? Now, it is still the present, but they're negative statements in the present. Now, let's switch to the past. And then again, we're using those past time expressions yesterday, which we often use with the auxiliary verb do. Did you go yesterday? Okay. What about if it was a third person? What about a she? Didn't she go with you? And now it's a negative questions in the past. So again, if it's the past, we use did all the way across, all the way down to every single subject. Formula for questions, you do first either present past plus subject plus the main verb. All right, so I wanted to do some drill exercises because I want you to get used to listening to the subject and the auxiliary verb that goes with that subject. For example, I, we use do, right, for I, right, and not if it's an, because we're creating negative statements. So I don't want to fly. So repeat after me. I don't want to fly. I don't want to fly. Now let's switch to she. Third person, does, negative, doesn't. We're all only going to use it in the negative, with negative statements. Does not, negative, only with negative statements. So repeat after me. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to go. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now let's take a look at this one right here. This is the past. Negative statements in the past. He didn't think so. He didn't think so. Again, repeat after me. He didn't think so. Did you go yesterday? Did you go yesterday? Didn't she go with you? Didn't she go with you? You didn't arrive in class in time to class. I'm sorry for that. You didn't arrive in time to class. You didn't arrive in time to class. You didn't arrive in time to class. So the idea is to start getting used to listening to the subject and the auxiliary verb do, or the form that has to go next to it. We know if it's a third person in the present, it doesn't. The past will always be did or didn't. Okay. Now for extra class work, and I will use it as an assessment as well. We're gonna write 10 sentences using the auxiliary verb do in the past. And I want you to use the warm-up notes you got for the past expression, past tense expressions, using yesterday, using last night, or last, I should say, with this with this work right here, with this extra work. You will also write 5 negative questions in the past and 5 negative questions in the present and 5 negative questions in the past as well. 5 and 5, okay? Here's an example. Don't you want to be here? Didn't she say where you were last night? Okay. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get back to me. Thank you.